Yehovah, please fill me with the Ruach HaKodesh, that I may speak your written words with boldness to those who listen. I ask all these things in Yeshua HaMashiach's name, amen. We'll start with the Shema, listen and obey. Children of Yehovah, pay careful attention and respond. Yehovah is our power and authority. Yehovah works in unity with himself, and you shall act upon your love to Yehovah with your power and authority, with your thoughts in mind, with your entire body, and with all the muchness that you have. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Hand, behold, nail, behold. Exodus chapter 12. Yehovah spoke to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt. He said, "You are to begin your calendar with this month. It will be the first month of the year for you. Speak to the assembly of Israel and say, on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb or kid for his family, one per household. Except that if the household is too small for a whole lamb or kid, then he and his next-door neighbor should share one, dividing it in proportion to the number of people eating it. Your animal must be without defect, a male in its first year, and you may choose it from either the sheep or the goats. You are to keep it until the 14th day of the month, and then the entire assembly of the community of Israel will slaughter it at dusk. They are to take some of the blood and smear it on the two sides of the top of the door frame at the entrance of the house in which they eat it. That night they are to eat the meat, roasted in the fire. They are to eat it with matzah and maror, bitter herbs. Don't eat it raw or boiled, but roasted in the fire, with its head, the lower parts of its legs, and its inner organs. Let nothing of it remain till morning. If any of it does remain, burn it up completely. Here is how you are to eat it: with your belt fastened, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you are to eat it hurriedly. It is Yehovah's Pesach, Passover. For that night I will pass through the land of Egypt and kill all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both men and animals. I will execute judgment against all the gods of Egypt. I am Yehovah. The blood will serve you as a sign marking the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over, Pesach, you. When I strike the land of Egypt, the death blow will not strike you. This will be a day for you to remember and celebrate as a festival to Yehovah. From generation to generation, you are to celebrate it by a perpetual regulation. For 7 days you are to eat matzah. On the first day, remove the leaven from your houses. For whoever eats hamatz, leavened bread, from the first to the 7th day is to be cut off from Israel. On the 1st and 7th days, you are to have an assembly set aside for God. On these days, no work is to be done, except that each must do to prepare his food. You may do that. You are to observe the festival of matzah, for on this day I brought your divisions out of the land of Egypt. Therefore, you are to observe this day from generation to generation by a perpetual regulation. From this evening, on the 14th day, the first month, until the evening of the 21st day, you are to eat matzah. During those 7 days, no leaven is to be found in your houses. Whoever eats food with hamatz in it is to be cut off from the community of Israel. It doesn't matter whether he is a foreigner or a citizen of the land. Eat nothing with hamatz in it. Wherever you live, eat hamatz. Then Moshe called for all the leaders of Israel and said, "Select and take lambs for your families, and slaughter the Pesach lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop leaves and dip it in the blood which is in the basin, and smear it on the two sides and on top of the doorframe. Then none of you is to go out of your door, out the door of his house, until morning. For Yehova will pass through to kill the Egyptians. But when he sees the blood on the top and the two sides, Yehova will pass over the door and will not allow the slaughterer to enter your houses and kill you. You are to observe this as a law, you and your descendants forever. When you come to the land which Yehova will give you, as he has promised, you are to observe this ceremony. When your children ask you, "What do you mean by this ceremony?" say, "It is the sacrifice of Yehovah's Pesach, Passover, because Yehova passed over the houses of the people of Israel in Egypt, when he killed the Egyptians, but spared our houses." The people of Israel bowed their heads and worshipped. Then the people of Israel went and did as Yehova had ordered Moshe and Aaron. That is what they did. At midnight, Yehova killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, and from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on the throne to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. Pharaoh got up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. And there was a horrendous wailing in Egypt, for there wasn't a single house without someone dead in it. He summoned Moshe and Aaron by night and said, "Up, leave my people, both you and the people of Israel, and go serve Yehovah, as you said. Take both your flocks and your herds, as you said. Get out of here. Bless me too." The Egyptians pressed to send the people out in the land quickly, because they said, "Otherwise, we'll all be dead." The people took their dough before it had become leaven and wrapped their kneading bowls in their clothes on their shoulders. The people of Israel had done what Moshe said. They had asked the Egyptians to give them silver and gold jewelry and clothing, and Yehovah had made the Egyptians so favorably disposed towards the people that they had to let them have whatever they requested. Thus, they plundered the Egyptians. The people of Israel traveled from Ramses to Sukkot, some 600,000 men on foot, not counting children. A mixed crowd also went up with them, as well as livestock in large numbers, both flocks and herds. They baked matzah loaves from the dough they had brought out of Egypt, since it was unleavened, because they had been driven out of Egypt without time to prepare supplies for themselves. The time the people of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, to the day, all the divisions of Yehovah left the land of Egypt. This was a night when Yehovah kept vigil to bring them out of the land of Egypt. And this same night continues to be a night when Yehovah keeps a vigil for all the people of Israel through all the generations. Yehovah said to Moshe and Aaron, "This is the regulation for the Pesach lamb. No foreigner is to eat it, but if anyone has a slave he bought for money, when you have circumcised him, he may eat it. Neither a traveler nor a hired servant may eat it. It is to be eaten in one house. You are not to take any of the meat outside the house, and you are not to break any of its bones. The whole community of Israel is to keep it. If a foreigner staying with you wants to observe Yehovah's Pesach, all his males must be circumcised. Then he may take part and observe it. He will be like a citizen of the land, but no uncircumcised person is to eat it. The same teaching is to apply equally to the citizen and to the foreigner living among you." All the people of Israel did just as Yehovah had ordered Moshe and Aaron. On that very day, Yehovah brought the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their divisions. How can we learn to love our Creator after reading this awesome chapter, Exodus 12? We can know that it was at this time that Yehovah ordered to begin the calendar with the month, as it is to be the first month of the year for Moshe and the Hebrew people. Trust that it was at this time that Yehovah detailed the holy, that is, set apart day, a lamb without defect, a male in its first year. Keep the lamb until the 14th day of the month. Then the entire assembly of the community of Israel will slaughter the lamb at dusk. Know that they were ordered to take some of the blood, smear it on the two sides and on top of the door frame. Know that Yehovah set very specific instructions on how to prepare the lamb and eat the meat, and that nothing remains, and if something does remain, then burn it completely. Know that it is said how to eat it as well. Trust it is Yehovah's Pesach, his Passover. Know that all homes without blood of the lamb was executed judgment by the death of their firstborn. Know this was judgment against all the gods of Egypt. Trust that Elohim is Yehovah. Trust that when Yehovah sees the blood, it is a sign marking on the houses, and Yehovah will pass over you. He will Pesach you. Trust that Pesach is a day to remember and celebrate as a festival to Yehovah perpetually. Know that for 7 days we are to eat matzah. Know to eat no unleavened bread for 7 days. No work. Assemble together to Elohim. Clean all the hamats from your homes. Trust that it was not the good work of putting the blood on the doors that saved anyone. Rather, it is the blood itself that Yehovah saw when passing over. Trust that it was the blood of a lamb that Yehovah saw. Trust that Passover is forever. Aim to bow your head and worship Yehovah. Do as Yehovah has ordered you to do. Know that this night all the Egyptians' firstborns from Pharaoh to prisoner was killed, even the livestock. Trust it was at night that Pharaoh summoned Moshe and Aaron and told them to get your people and go. Serve Yehovah. Know that Pharaoh asked to be blessed as well. Know that the Hebrew people left quickly with silver and gold and clothing so that they plundered Egypt. Trust that the Hebrews traveled from Ramses to Sukkot, some 600,000, not counting children. Know that they lived in Egypt 430 years to the day. How can we love others as Yeshua loves us? We can encourage others to worship Yehovah on Pesach, that is Passover. How can bear one another's burdens? We can share with others the truth of the blood of Yeshua, the risen Lamb. Produce spiritual fruit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, and self-control. End with the Aaronic blessing. Yehovah will kneel before you presenting gifts, and he will guard you with a hedge of protection. Yehovah will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, bringing order, and he will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yehovah will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon you and will set in place all you need to be whole and complete.